I believe the universe guided me to Maureen when I really needed her. I was in a narcissistic relationship that I wasn't willing to work with, and I was manipulated to think there was something wrong with me. So I picked a life coach, and the universe guided me to Maureen, and through several months, she helped me realize the situation I was in, how to get out of it, and really encouraged me and motivated me to get my life together, get my ducks in a row, get a better job, and really build my self-confidence. Maureen was the best thing that happened to me. She's very understanding, and her methods are different from what you would think a therapist would be. She knows much more than I would ever do. I'm only 26. And honestly, it was meant to be. She helped me through some things I didn't understand. She's basically a relationship coach as well. It was the best thing that ever happened to me. I would totally recommend it to anybody, and I have. But a lot of people aren't ready for the things that she's going to bring up. She's really going to push you. And show you that there's a better version of yourself. I could not be more grateful for all the time I've invested in counseling and coaching with her. She's like a friend now.
And welcome to the I Never Knew podcast, also known as Inc. This show dives into the life experiences of people who have been through it all and have come through the other side stronger, better, and triumphant. Each story is raw, authentic, and, at times, heartbreaking. One thing joins it all together, the fact that the stories can help the listener learn and grow. Hosted by Life Coach Maureen, she sits down each episode with a new guest who will empower the listener to set out on their self-discovery journey and start to heal. Now you'll be joined by Maureen and her special guest. Please enjoy the show.
Hello everyone, and welcome to I Never Knew podcast. I am your host, Maureen Scanlon, or Life Coach Maureen. I'm adding a little bit to the title. I haven't figured out the technology part to do it, but it's I never knew, but my dog knew. Because if you all know me, my dogs are my brand, they're my heart, they're everything. So that'll be coming forward. As always, I'm so excited to have today's guest. She's more than a guest, though. I feel like that's too impersonal. Her and I are friends. We met through a mutual friend, and it was instantaneous energy, connection, alignment, all of it. Let me tell you about her. Her name is Portia Booker, and she's known as Portia the Producer. So she's on a mission to change the narrative and stigma on mental wellness, and through her personal journey, she's been driven to speak up after being diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 2016. Portia found herself at a crossroad to either prioritize her mental health or continue with her dream job in the television industry. Several treatment plans, medication adjustments, and numerous therapy sessions without resolution forced Portia to resign. Little did Portia know her breakdown from the devastation of leaving her dream job would lead to a breakthrough. It always happens that way. We never know. We don't know what we don't know. And now she's using her story of resilience to inspire others once plagued by the same societal prescription. Ooh, I love that. To create the life of her dreams without writing your ending. Portia is the executive producer and host of Groove with Portia, a weekly radio show centered on how individuals overcome adversity and find an opportunity. Portia's show airs every Wednesday on WOVU 95.9 FM in Cleveland, Ohio, with a listenership of over 90,000. Woo-hoo, sister! When Portia is away from hosting, you can find her producing other podcasts, coaching new or veteran hosts on how to improve their shows, speaking in front of audiences on her story, and recording audiobooks. So, she started off singing for me offline. So, hello, my girl, Portia.
Live Coach Maureen. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your platform. What an honor. Truly it is. Whenever I'm able to come on to other people's shows and share my journey and just help inspire and uplift people, it truly always is a joy to my day. So thank you so much for inviting me on.
We are honored, and I love what you say. Collaboration is key. I have found that since I started business by myself, being in business for myself. You used to think it was a competition. It was like, I gotta get ahead. I gotta run in front of the pack. And that's nonsense. Now I've learned I want to be on a podcast. I want to have people on a podcast. I want to, be in people's business and then in mine. So anyway, I just think it's super cool. So Portia has gone through a lot recently, since July, and she's going to tell us how her story started and what changed her to be in this arena of mental health awareness, because you only know when you've experienced it firsthand. So tell us how it all started.
Oh, Maureen, you want me to start from the beginning of my mental wellness journey? You want me to start from July along with maintaining my mental wellness?
Yes.
Because, this past July, I might get a little emotional. My mom made her transition, and, I was her full-time caregiver. And as we both know, Maureen, being a caregiver is both rotten and rewarding at times. But honestly, I wouldn't have traded that time for anything. When I look back a year ago, I said a prayer to God. I said, God, give me 1 year with my mom. Because I knew then that she was on that train of decline. And that's exactly what I got. I got 1 year with her. And even though some nights were tough, some nights were full of laughs, some nights were full of crying, I still don't regret riding that train with her even to the bitter end. I mean, God, that woman fought to the bitter end. I gotta say, my mom was in the military. She was in the army. And that sojourn her was still kicking, even on her last day here on earth. I'm telling you, sometimes it's like you said, be careful what you wish for sometimes. And so just navigating now. And by the time probably this conversation airs, it'll be 3 months that my mom has made her transition, and the grief journey has truly been one of a different caliber to say. We go through various bouts of grief in our life, right? It's not always from the loss of a loved one. We go through grief when we lose a job. We go through grief as if we're parents and our kids go off to college, we're an empty nester. We go through grief when we leave from an area of comfort to an area of unknown. We ask all those questions. Did I make the right decision? Should I have waited? All the things. So we go through that grief in all of these life events. And when I think about what's currently in my realm of grief, right? What I've learned is that grief is a process, but it's not permanent. I'm going to say that again. Grief is a process, but it's not permanent. And I think in our society, Maureen, we have painted this narrative that you're only allowed to grieve for 5 minutes, then it's back to business the very next day. And I've had to learn that I have to let go of that McDonald's line algorithm in this grief process because grief comes in waves. When I think about my initial mental health journey in 2016 when I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, there was grief there. Moving 1,000 miles away from home, taking on a new job, brand new state, brand new city, whole new nucleus of people I'm surrounded by, not my main support system. So there's grief within that. But I can say that journey of what I went through helped propel or prepare me for this journey 6 years later of my mom transitioning. The difference this time, Maureen, is that literally, and I'm going to get emotional, the day after my mom transitioned, I remember coming out on the front porch. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning. And my mom always wore this pink robe. She wore this pink robe in the hospital, even when she transitioned. And I remember the sky was that same color pink of my mom's robe. And that made me realize right there that my mom is always with me, even though she's not physically here. But what that also told me was that, Portia, we can do hard things. We can't. What if your mom's transition is for your transformation? And hence the birth of this audio book that I've literally created around my grief journey, because what I want to do is I want to remove that stigma that is placed on grief, that everybody's so afraid to go through it that they end up imprisoning themselves within addictive behaviors. And I knew I didn't want to go through that again. And so for me, this grief journey, yes, it's been rotten at times, from the numb feeling to the suicidal thoughts, all of those things. But it has also been rewarding to let go of that societal narrative that has been ingrained in our head about grief being a bad thing.
Wow. I love that. And I'm going to say the apple did not fall far from the tree, because Miss Portia's a fighter too. So that spirit of mama is in you. And I love the symbolism, and I love that signs are always there. We just have to find them. When you're in your deepest moments, it's when you're most aware and receptive. And I love what you said. Life experiences are grief. It doesn't have to be just the loss of a loved one here in our lives. You're right. There's grief every day. And tell me if you think this is on point. I think grief comes from the loss of an expectation. It's a disappointment, and not just the losing of a loved one. That's a different caliber and a different level. But I think everyday experiences, as you said, having that disappointment is grief. We have to find our way through it.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, in my mind, and I have to always remind myself to be mindful of my thoughts. Now, I have a mind that's full, but be mindful. When I think back to before my mom transitioned, there was a part of me that was like, the doctors are going to fix her. She's gonna, her lungs are gonna heal. She's gonna come back to normal. All this oxygen equipment can go run for the hills. That expectation initially imprisoned me, and I think that is what set in the pre-grief before even my mom made her full transition. Because Maureen and I've shared this with a lot of people. I held my mom's hand when she took her last breath, and I remember what she said to me. I got literally 5 minutes with my mom before she opted in for the morphine drip. And again, I might get emotional for saying this. But I told my mom, I said, Mom, I want you to know, thank you so much. Thank you for being my cheerleader. Thank you for giving me life. Thank you for encouraging me to go for my dreams when everybody else laughed at me. And thank you for being the only person in this world who I would love to call mommy every day. And my mother told me, she said, Portia, that means mommy's job is done. Mommy's job is done. And when she said that to me, I didn't think about it at the time, but I realized that was only the beginning of my new life.
God, that is so I'm never speechless, but I'm speechless. And listeners, you know, when you've lost someone, if you've lost someone, you can completely relate to Portia. And the beauty of it is the people that I know lately that have passed, some friends of mine with their parents passing, that gift you gave one another at the end, the very end. As a mom, I hope my kids are right there holding my hand and saying those things to me. You let her go with nothing left unsaid. And that, do you think that helps? I hate the word closure. We're not going to say closure. There's no closure. It's just you're going to miss her every single day in this physical plane. But do you think that helps though with being able to move forward with your life, sort of take the baton now?
The way I help myself, Maureen, to not fall into what I call the crippling bouts of grief is I look at my mom transitioning as a celebration. She's graduated to the next level of life. And that's why I said I think we have to learn to shift our mindset around grief. Okay, it's equivalent to when we watch the Olympics, right? And let's say if we know we follow an athlete for several years, they train for all these months to compete in this competition. Well, right when they get to the finish line, they break their ankle and they lose. Right? That's what grief is. It's that door closing from that experience. Again, that expectation, I'm going to win, right? So when that door closes, you have two choices. To either be a victim of that circumstance or find a way to become victorious from that. Learn to pivot. And I know that my mom wouldn't want me in the bed all day crying. Every day that she's not here. My mom doesn't want me to stop living because she's no longer physically here. She's still highly alive. I mean, when you talk about signs, Maureen. Oh man. I get signs from her often. Whether it's the monarch butterflies that come through or cardinals, hawks, numbers. She's there. And then another time, most of the time with her, I hear her favorite song in my head when I know she's nearby. Or even my dog. Mr. Fletcher start little barks, and I'll be like, who's here, Mr. Fletcher? Is Grandma here? And his little ear will start to quiver. And I'm like, okay, well, Ma, if you're in the house, just don't be a weirdo. You can hang out. I have no problem. That's fine. And sometimes I'll actually smell her perfume when I walk by her room. Sometimes her room is diagonal from mine upstairs. So she is here.
Heck yeah. And of course I love Mr. Fletcher. Mr. Fletcher is so aligned spiritually. So yeah, pay attention to Mr. Fletcher, and he'll look in the corner, or he'll look at the couch and be like, what are you doing? Oh, Mama's here. I love signs, and I've been seeing a lot of monarchs myself lately, which is symbolic. Yeah. I just absolutely love that. And what I like is that you're turning to the joy, and to be able to speak with her and have that belief. It's so hard when people don't believe there's afterlife. I think that's, and everyone's entitled to that. A lot of people need that proof. But as a medium, I know there's afterlife because I communicate and they communicate with me, but we all have to believe it in with our own experience. But you stop yourself, and with anything else, stop, pause, and then you reframed it to, we're not going to have this stigma of sadness, and Mom wants me to live. Mom wants me to do more. And she was here as my cheerleader. She wouldn't stop now, so I can't stop.
Yeah. And even Maureen, even when we did a celebration of life for her. I mean, people can't see my background on my computer, but I have hot air balloons. This was a picture that I actually snuck in to get, but that's for her on the day. We did a balloon release for my mom at the lake. And believe it or not, Maureen, it was supposed to rain all that day on July 16th. It was supposed to be just storms out the wazoo. And I said, okay, well, we'll play it by ear. We'll still do it. So we had the balloon release set for 1/16. My mom's birthday is January 16th. So we had the pink and purple balloons. Me and my brother each had a pink and purple, and then everybody else had one. And right when we released those balloons, the sun came out over the lake. And I knew it was my mom. And then, to top it off, this stranger came up to me and said, "Hi, I took pictures for you. Can I send them to you?" Don't even know who this lady is from E. And you know, she was sending. I gave her my number and everything. And she said, "By any chance, was that your mom?" And I said, yes, it was. And she said, "Oh, that's hard. I went through that 10 years ago." She said, "But while I was walking on the trail, my mom told me to take these pictures for you because she said someone might need them."
I didn't even know full body chills. Oh, yes. You know her. You know her. You're aligned with her in soul. You just didn't know her here on Earth. And I just... There are no coincidences, girl, and how beautiful to get the... It's like a third-person perspective. You were too in the moment, in the emotion, and how the pictures turn out.
Oh, she got pictures from the initial everybody letting go of their balloons all the way until they went over the lake. I mean, talk about breathtaking. And I even have a video on my Nikon that I took of the balloon release. And there's one on, on my Facebook, two of the balloon release also. But man,
that's
I was blown away. Like I didn't expect, again, you never expect that to occur, and just to have that somebody else recognize the beautiful person my mom is. Even moving forward, my mom definitely is love. She radiated in it. I mean, our mutual connect, Dawn got to actually meet my mom. She got to talk to her on the phone and on Zoom. So she knew the person who she was. And even now, my mom truly is living forever. Through everybody who she touched in her life while she was here. People are still, Maureen, every moon in the mail, I still get a card or something from somebody. People who I haven't even met. People from all over the world have sent stuff to us in honor of my mom.
Wow.
Yes. It's so you just never know. And see, that's the kind of impact I want to have and be remembered for. We're all afraid. To me, a lot of people are afraid to die because of how they're going to die. But to me, if that's the legacy that's going to keep you living forever, I'll take it.
Yes. That's what I always say. What are they going to say at your funeral? Now, what I want to touch on is everybody handles like grief and other people grief differently. What did you notice? Because I think when someone passes, I think we sort of get back into the don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff when you have something that impactful in your life. What did you find? Either you decided like I don't have time for this anymore. I've got to clear this out, or that people just didn't know how to deal with the loss of your mom, or deal with you with the loss of your mom.
So I'll be honest with you, Maureen. This was the inspiration for the book that I'm releasing. Finding Grace Within Grief, Her Transition, My Transformation. What I continue to find, Maureen, is many different people, friends of my mom's, some family members too, their guilt was being unintentionally thrown on me. And every time I would have a conversation, just a general conversation of I'm checking in on you, how are you doing? The first thing that would come out of their mouth was, "Oh, it's such a great loss that your mom is gone. Oh, you'll never get over it. Oh, woe is me. Oh, this. I've known her for this amount of years." And I said, in my mind, I'm like, "Are you kidding me? You mean to tell me that this is the only boat that you can stay in right now? Considering I'm her kid, you don't see me moaning and groaning every day that my mom is no longer here." I said, "Oh, no. We ain't about to have this. We are not about to have, literally, I was fed up with all the people literally throwing their guilt on me, including my family. So I've had to a little bit distance myself from some family members. And I think they've also kind of done the same thing because, as we both know, grief is an independent journey. Every person handles grief differently. Grief, again, is a process, but it's not permanent. But unfortunately, our society only paints one picture on how to work through your grief. You have to go on that journey. You have to feel those emotions. You can't continue to stifle them and suppress them, because what's going to eventually happen is that suppression is like a ticking time bomb. It's eventually going to blow up, not in just your face, but you're going to bleed out on everybody else. And I knew I didn't want that for my life. And so I was thankful, Maureen, that when I recognized that the grief cloud had already made its mark above my head, I said a prayer. I said, God, I know I can't do this journey alone. Send me help. Send me help. And sure enough, he answered me. A week after my mom transitioned, my new therapist, who I have now, came into my life through a mutual connection. I didn't know who they were from Adam. I thought they were just going to be a radio guest and keep it moving. But after our initial conversation, I said, hey, can I hire you to work with me? I need help. And they did. And I've been with them ever since. So for me, Maureen, what's been the path to help me stay on a healthy grieving journey is the best way to put it. Boundaries, number one. Writing. I mean, I can't tell you how much writing I've done. I probably can write a whole nother new book from all the writing assignments that my therapist has given me. Because that was the first thing. I was angry. I was so angry at God. I mean, literally, Maureen, I was so angry at God, I could have punched him in the face and swore and caught every Bible in my house on fire by how angry I was. And, you know, my therapist was like, you got to make peace with that, Portia. You have to feel your feelings, but you have to forgive. And so from that very initial writing assignment of me writing a cracked open, unfiltered letter to God, that started my healing right there. That was the opening of the wound and letting the right amount of healing serum to start to really dispel the poison and negativity. So that's why I'm able to stand before you today and not still be crippled in my bed like most people, because too many people, again, become crippled by the societal prescription narrative around grief. And I knew I wasn't going to do that. I knew that I'm like, no, 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 and no. I'm not going down this path. I'm going to find another way. And that's why this book that I'm releasing is really coming from my heart. It's really coming from a place of pain converted to purpose, because I knew I didn't want to nail myself to my own cross like most people do when they're in that boat of grief.
I think all those suggestions are so great. And the thing about Portia, listeners, is she knows herself so well. She has so much self-awareness from her diagnosis and knowing what triggers her, what really gets her back into that old cycle or gets her stuck. So Portia is always proactive about it. And that's the thing I admire about you, is you always get ahead of it. And I'm going to say this, listeners, she is the best checker inner I know. This girl, I feel so terrible because I get so overwhelmed. And then out of the blue every week, Portia will say, hey, Mama Maureen, how are you? Checking in. Is there anything you need? It's like she stops me in my tracks and I'll go, Oh my gosh, I'm not checking in with people. I'm so, not that I'm being self-centered, but I'm just so overwhelmed. Especially with, I have ADD. So I have focus issues. So I have to try to stay focused when I'm especially busy. But Portia, that's the thing about you, is the proactive. And in our text messages, Portia will say, I had a day of crying today. And I'm behind the scenes going, good for you. You're always letting it out. And I think all of these methods are healthy and wonderful. A lot of people I've heard, because I haven't lost any parents. I've lost my grandparents, my grandparents were like second parents to me, really. And a lot of people will say, well, I went through the motion, especially if it's a spouse or a parent or a child. I think it's really impactful. Our grandparents grow old. We sort of are a little more prepared. And people will say, I went through the death, if it was sudden especially, and they weren't even prepared for that. Then they go through the funeral, the condolences, and then 6 months later, they'll be like, I just realized I haven't grieved yet. I haven't even started grieving. And it's that repression that you said. And I think you grabbed the handle, the motorcycle of proactiveness and rode that so healthily. And how do you get people who are grieving, when you run into someone who's lost someone or you go to a funeral, how do you help them grieve sooner?
Number one, you have to feel those feelings. If you're angry, you are allowed to feel angry, but learn how to channel that anger into an activity that's not destructive. I know when I was really angry, my therapist told me to write a letter. And I mean, I'm telling you, Maureen, I'm surprised that the Bibles in my house didn't catch on fire by how honest I was with how angry I was at God. Like, hey, God, why did you take my mom away? What the heck? What did I do? Why didn't you go ahead and take me too if you took her? So you have to, one, feel your feelings. Number two, this is very important. And Maureen, you hit the nail on the head. You have to cry. I don't care what anybody says. I used to be that person who saw crying as a weakness because of the way that I grew up. I grew up in a household with all boys. And so, of course, you're outside playing sports, football, basketball, kickball, battleship, whatever, video games. You get hurt. Oh, you got to suck that up. You can't show that emotion. But now I realize holding that in is literally equivalent to wearing a crown of thorns on your head. It hurts you more than it hurts everybody else. So you have to cry. And you don't have to cry in front of everybody. You can do it on your own time or whatever, but you have to let it out. Don't suppress it. Number three, get a support system who, and I have to be very light with this, but when you find your tribe of people, make sure that they allow you to be vulnerable, because that will also help to keep you afloat. I'm very thankful, Maureen, that my support tribe is solid. You know, when I tell them, hey, I'm struggling, can I have 5 minutes of your time on the phone? They have no problem, hands down. And I tell them what's going on, and they just listen. They listen without interruption. And then I'll tell them, hey, you can speak, you can say whatever. And that helps me. So really finding yourself a support tribe that isn't trying to bleed their stories on you, but that they are there to unconditionally love and listen to you. Number 4, self-care. I got to say it. You have to take care of yourself. And what does that look like? When you're in a state of grief, for me, for example, I live in the same house still where my mom resided. So I make it a point every day to leave the house for an hour. Get out of the house, whether it's for a drive, go to the lake, do an activity. Like I mentioned, I do wood burning projects. I work on different other artistic things. Sometimes I write poems, sometimes I write books. Do something that takes your mind off of that. or learn to convert those emotions into a creative channel, because that'll really help you. Obviously, make sure you're getting enough sleep, drink enough water. When you're going through grief, sometimes it's hard to eat. I can tell you truthfully, that's how it was for me. For 2 weeks, I felt like I just had no appetite. I'm thankful to obviously some special one who sent me a bouquet of Slim Jims that did help a lot. So
you said they were your favorite. I'm like, you know what? Flowers die. Slim Jims are comfort for her. I'm sending her comfort. So yes, you deserve Slim Jims. And that was kind of my thought too, was if she's not eating, I want her to eat at least, get something in her. It's easy to just grab it and, not have to think too much about making a meal. So thank you for acknowledging.
yes, and it's true. You gotta, and another thing I'll say this, number 5, this is definitely crucial. When people ask how they can support you, and I struggled with this for a minute, Maureen, let them know. Say, hey, can you buy me dinner tonight? I just can't find the strength to cook. If you have pets and you need someone to walk them, say, hey, can you come over and walk Charlie with me today? Or if you're struggling to get work done, say, hey, can you sit on a Zoom call with me for an hour? Can you meet up with me for an hour for coffee just so I can focus on this project? Tell them exactly what you need. Don't be ashamed, because people understand grief can be crippling.
Yes.
And I'm here to tell you, it can be crippling, but it does not have to completely numb you to the point where you're literally nailing yourself to your own deathbed. It doesn't have to be that way. As long as you're open, be vulnerable, be a little vulnerable. That's okay. I've learned through this grief journey that my openness to be vulnerable has literally opened more doors for me than what I imagined. When I've told my coaches, I need you guys' help. I'm drowning in my emotions. Please help me. Help me to stay focused and be intentional. I need help with writing this script. I need help with working on this project or brainstorming, whatever it is. Be as clear and transparent as you can, whether it makes sense or not. And always, always, always make time for yourself too. Sometimes it can be too much being around people, their energy, their guilt. Take time for yourself. I was thankful, Maureen, since my mom transitioned. I'm a big concert junkie. I'm a very big concert junkie. I've been to probably 7 or 8 concerts since my mom's transition. I've seen Evanescence in concert, Korn in concert. I got to meet my favorite singer of my favorite band. I got to meet Christina Shabi of Lacuna Coil. And this is how I realize what I'm doing with this book is going to be impactful. The fact that I told Christina that I could not come to their show in Italy because of my mom transitioning, you know what she did? She came up to me, gave me a hug. And, people from Europe are very affectionate. I didn't expect her to give me that big of a hug. She took both of my hands, kissed them, and put them across her heart. She said, I understand the journey that you're on. It's hard sometimes, but Portia, know that your mom is proud of you and keep going. Do everything in honor of her. And that made my day. And that really made me realize that no one, whether you're up there on the celebrity scale or anybody who's on the totem pole playing field like me and you, Maureen, is excluded from a grief journey. Right. It's all about your mindset. It's all about you learning how to let go of a lot of what I call societal ingrained toxicity and embarking on your own narrative because I'm telling you, Maureen, when my mom, and it's weird for me to say this now, but when my mom transitioned, all of my childhood traumas resurfaced. And that's when I knew that I wanted to go through this journey differently. So I had to let go of some of those expectations that I held because my mom was still here, not being truly authentic to myself. I had to let that go and learn to embody the Portia who you see today. So I think grief is definitely worth it. There is purpose within that pain of loss. But again, it's that duality of life. If there's love, there's going to be pain. If there's loss, there's going to be, wins. So it's just finding that balance between the two. And that balance starts with gratitude.
Yeah. When we're humans having human experiences, and doesn't matter how high or how low your success ladder looks, we're still all the same. I know when I go to funerals, sometimes I don't know what to say. I feel deeply, but I don't know what to say. Can you give us maybe some do's and don'ts of what to say when someone has lost a loved one? And I know people are always well-intentioned, but sometimes we stick our foot in our mouth. And so tell us some of the foot in mouth things not to say, and then tell us the things that brought you the most comfort that people did say to you.
I'm going to start with the ones of don'ts. I know some people mean well, but personally, I got really irritated when people would say, your mom's in a better place. Well, truthfully, if she was in a better place, she'd still be here with me. So you are not allowed to say that she would be in a better place. Only I can. So that's number one of don't.
Yes.
Number two of don't. I would say, and I get everybody walks a different path of spirituality and religion. I personally would steer away from biblical quotes. I personally would, because there was a good friend of mine. They didn't realize that they offended me with this, but there's a quote, a biblical verse that says something on the lines of absent from the spirit, present with the Lord. Nope, doesn't bring me comfort. Again, that's the same of saying she's in a better place. If she was in a better place again, she'd be here with me. Those are my two. Another one I would say is I'm sorry for your loss. I'm somebody who is very intentional with every word that I say, every person who I engage with. Really take a moment to tell this person how you feel for them. You can say, my heart hurts for you. I'm here if you need somebody to listen. I would rather hear I'm here if you need somebody to listen instead of I'm sorry. Because truthfully, what are you sorry for? You weren't the cause of my loved one making their transition from here. Same thing with my condolences. So I really suggest for people to be intentional with their word choice when somebody is in a state of grief. And another thing I got to add to this, if you tell somebody that you're going to be there for them, you better hold up to it. Because trust and believe, when somebody is, if somebody would have told me, Maureen, that I would have became a savage when my mom transitioned, I'm telling you. I mean, when we were kind of going through a little bit of some hiccups with the process of getting my mom cremated and all the things with the hospital, I became a full-on savage Goliath. I mean, I'm like, no, absolutely not. You can't spoon feed me any old thing. So just be mindful that some people are highly emotional, and it's okay. Me, I can be both emotional and logic to an extent. But again, you hinted on the fact that I'm very self aware. So I can tell when the emotional cup is running over and the logic cup is empty, and vice versa. So just really being mindful of that. So those are my tips of do's and don'ts. Again, it's a mindset thing where we're still given that same narrative of when somebody loses someone, we have to apologize for their loss, and that's not the case. Just be genuine. And truly, if you don't know what to say, just don't say anything. Don't. Reach out to them at a different time and say, "Hey, I was thinking of you. I saw that such and such made their transition. I just wanted you to know that I was thinking of you." I would rather get that on a day when I'm really having a rough day than for somebody to say, "I'm sorry for your loss."
I love that. I love that. And you wouldn't be offended when someone doesn't respond?
I wouldn't be offended. No, because again, some people tend to retreat when someone is in a state of grief. And I've had people tell me this, "Well, I saw that you were going through this. I didn't want to intrude." No, you can say whatever it is. Tell me, "Hey, I was thinking of you." Some of my coaches who I don't talk to on a regular basis, they will text me and say, "Hey, I'm thinking of you." I would rather hear that than anything, than for you to just later on say, "Well, I didn't know what to say." Just say, "Hey, I'm thinking of you." Or if you don't know what to say, even just admit it. I had somebody send me a DM that said that on Instagram. "Hey, I don't know what to say as I can't relate to what you're going through, but I'm thinking of you." Bam. Right there.
Nice. Very honest, very transparent. And I think people do that with other problems too, like when you're going through a divorce or you've lost your job. As humans, I think, and especially if you're empathic, it's hard you feel so much for that person. You're like, I don't want to blow this when I say that. How do I say this right? And some people just can't articulate the depth of the feelings. And I think that was really good insight from you that, just say, I can't articulate the depth of my feelings for you, just come out with it. And I love that you're sharing that with us, because sometimes we feel like we can be so taboo and bring up subjects. I remember after my divorce, I hadn't talked to one of my family members for quite a while, and we reunited. And I said, "Why didn't you reach out? Where have you been?" And they said, "Because I didn't know how to help you." Well, it didn't help me with you completely ignoring me and not saying, "Hey, I'm just here if you need me." So this is a good example of both the grief and then also just in life, just reach out. Just reach out is what Portia is saying. Gosh, it's just so impactful, everything you're saying. And I think it's so helpful. And I think so many people will relate. And I've had other guests who've, lost children. And that to me, the order of things is a parent goes before their child, and when someone loses their child, and I don't think any grief is bigger or small, or don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing, but that's
I want to add to that. I recently had a friend of mine who also lost a kid.
Okay.
Adult kid, but still, I told them they unintentionally tried to pull the card of my grief is heavier than yours because I lost a kid. And I had to remind them, grief is grief. Addiction is addiction. Pain is pain. No matter what, nobody's grief is heavier than anybody's. Grief is grief. Who am I to say that you losing your job that you've had for 25 years doesn't hold the same amount of pain of me losing my mom that I've had in my life for 30 years? Who am I to say? So again, I think we've got to remove that veil of illusion that your grief is heavier than mine because you lost a kid. My grief is heavier than yours because I lost my mom. And people will say, "Well, your parents are here and there and, and that." But see, me and my mom were like this. We were like two peas in a pod. Yeah. And some parents don't have a close relationship with their children. So I think, again, we've got to remove that expectation, again, that this type of grief holds more weight than another type. Again, grief is grief, pain is pain, addiction is addiction.
Thank you for clarifying that. And I know from doing this podcast, and I'm on, now episode 41, everybody talks about their story. And that's the thing, is I wanted this variety of guests who've been through it all. And I never have a guest that comes on and I'm like, oh, well, this guest's, trauma is a lot less than this guest trauma. It's same thing with losing someone. Trauma is trauma, and that experience is painful to that person. Your grief with your mom is your experience. Someone who's been estranged from their mom for 30 years, maybe it's not as impactful. Maybe someone, that doesn't have children can't understand the grief of losing a child. So it's this human aspect that we need to really stop judging one another and competing for whose pain is bigger. Like, let's just love. Let's just say, I love you. This hurts you. I'm here for you. Bottom line.
That's simple. In a nutshell, Maureen, literally. My pain, my sympathy, whatever I hurt with you, I can't relate all the way, but just know I'm here and I'm genuinely here. And if you're not, just say, my heart is with you. Yeah. Simple. Yeah. Don't go on this long monologue, drunken tangent. No.
Don't give me your drunken tangents about my grief. So as we wrap up, now that you're on the other side, the whole thing is I never knew, and I think how different our perspectives are on one side, and then when we get through that experience, what now did you never know that you either are stronger now that you've made it through, or you just had an unawareness of that you're aware that you can give to others?
I never knew that going through grief is a process that is for our greatest good.
Grief?
Because you're letting go of the expectation, the ideologies that you've been spoon-fed all your life about how grief is supposed to look. But truly, grief is for our benefit. It's not for a deficit or a bad thing. Grief is truly for our benefit, because if we don't go through grief, how will we learn to convert our pain into purpose? How will we learn to step outside of that boat of comfort and really truly live the lives that we are destined to live without some form of grief?
Oh, that is awesome. Grief is a process for our greater good. And we remove the fear so we can love. If you fear death, you find it harder to love more because you don't want the loss of losing. And that's that fear of abandonment belief. And so what I'm hearing is grief changed your belief about life, not death.
Yeah. 100%. The way I view life now is life is a uniquely tailored path that we've all been put on. Some of us go through more hurdles than others for a purpose that can't be explained. Who would have thought, Maureen, that 6 years ago that I would have had a full mental breakdown, lost my dream job, then had to go through a series of healing from that to now, fast forward 6 years later, I'm back in that same boat of grief because of the transition of my mom. But this time I took what I learned those 6 years ago and I'm able to apply it where I'm not crippled.
What are you doing?
I've had to really, again, let go of some of those beliefs that you're not supposed to ask for help, that you're not supposed to be vulnerable. I had to let go of those in order to really step in to the true person who I am today. And I'll leave this last thing.
Make sure they're off all the
Become comfortable with the uncomfortable.
So there's going to be a cold
Look at the word comfort as planting a seed in a drought. A seed in a drought will not grow. It's just going to stay stagnant.
That is amazing. What came to my mind was preparedness. So as we go through each of these experiences, And I think I talked about this in another episode where I thought I had grappled with an issue. I had worked through it, processed through it, and I thought, I got this. I'm done with this. For me, it's guilt, and mainly with parenting. And so I got this thing like, okay, I did this with guilt. I'm good. And then, you know what? I had to work through all that, do all that inner work, and then it showed itself again. That trigger came up, and I was like, uh-oh, it's not quite healed yet, and it's showing me in a different way that I'm not completely healed from it. And I think each of those experiences, we just get better and better practicing like an athlete. You know, every time you try to do better with your time, you know, you, as a runner, you try to get a faster time, but you're still doing well in each of those situations. You're just getting smarter. So if you were walking downtown with 100,000 people behind you with a giant banner, what does Portia's banner say about changing the world?
Portia's banner says, take the leap, because you don't know what's truly on the other side. And your story is not for you. Your story of overcoming is somebody else's blueprint to stop the cemetery from becoming richer.
Your story is not for you. Oh, I love that. So, you're working on your book. Where would you like people to find you? Where can they go if they want to just reach out and say, hey, Portia, I'm struggling. I heard your episode on I Never Knew, and I what do I do with this? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Portia_hugs, HUGS. And from there, you can find me on Facebook, Portia Booker, LinkedIn, Portia Booker. I mean, if you just Google my name, Portia Booker, you will find Grew with Portia. You'll find my YouTube channel. You'll find all of those things. You just Google Portia Booker, literally.
Fabulous. She's everywhere. She's a rock star. And to close it up, as you gave us the most wonderful steps of setting boundaries, writing, channeling your feelings, crying, finding a support system, doing self-care, and don't be afraid to ask, what is your shameless self-indulgence? And this can be something like Slim Jims, something that's fun and just is that little tiny thing that says, I got to do this for me today.
Ooh, so I have a couple. One of the things that I will do is I do wood burning projects. I make them from scratch. Another thing is when I'm just like lounging in bed, I am one of those people. Yes, I might get hate mail for this. I do watch pimple popping videos because I love them.
Oh my gosh. No. I can't. It's the one thing. And the weird thing is I started in nursing and I was in the medical field for 30 years. And I can't. It is the one thing that I cannot. But I know so many people that love it. Well, it's a TV show, so obviously a lot of people love it. Is it the train wreck effect, or is it just what's satisfying about that show? Let me get into a little psychology in the pimple popper lovers. Can I call you back?
I think for me, it's that release. Like you're watching, obviously, this gross pus-filled bubble on somebody's forehead, and you're just waiting to see, is it gonna fly? Is it gonna just ooze? Like I'm literally like, okay, this one's gonna fly out into the universe. Like literally, that's just my thought pattern. But I get grossed out by nothing. I mean, Maureen, me and you both have that background in healthcare. I'm that weirdo that has to watch them take my blood. If I can't see them taking my blood, I'm hyperventilating. But that's for a whole nother day.
Oh my goodness, I love it. There is something there. It's a release thing, symbolically, spiritually, mentally, and the worst physically. But that I love it. I love the difference between humans. That's what I love. And I was relieved to not hear ice cream because every single guest has this ice cream thing. So I really think I should get into ice cream because man, the people who love their ice cream, it's like ridiculous. But gosh, thank you so much for being here today, for being who you are, for showing our listeners in the world that something so deeply painful and your past belief about it can be so enlightening and beautiful and heading you forward instead of holding you back. And you're just a gem to me. I mean, you're just a shining light to me.
Thank you, Maureen. I truly appreciate it. And thanks for inviting me on. And it's true. What we go through in life is for a greater purpose. We have to, pain is not the enemy, y'all. Pain is not the enemy. Everything that we go through is for a greater good. It's for you to become the best version of yourself. Whether it's losing a parent, whether it's losing a kid, whether it's, losing that job that you've been at for the last 25, 30 years, letting go of that door closing opens plenty of doors of opportunity. You just have to be open to seeing that and say yes to you. Say no to everybody else and say yes to you.
Change the perspective and refocus. All right, guys. Well, that's the end of our episode for today. Again, I'll put all these links up there for Portia and to reach out to her when this does go live. So you'll be able to find her. If you are looking for me, of course, my books are available on Amazon. My dog is more enlightened than I am, and my dog is my relationship coach, as well as my coaching services to you to help you really find that love and self-confidence in yourself at Life Coach Maureen. So thank you all. Go give us that 5-star review. Share this with your friends. Build this community of people that love one another, share with one another, are vulnerable, and we want to help everyone overcome and thrive in this life. So have a fabulous day until next episode. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to the I Never Knew podcast. If you found today's episode inspiring and educational, please be sure to follow, subscribe, and spread the word. The more people that join the Inc. community, the more it can develop and influence others as we work together for a healthier and brighter future. Until next time.